Welcome to 1EMS, the assessment. I am Charles McFall, and I'm here today with Neil Schoepp. How you doing, Neil?
I'm great, Charles. How you been?
I am awesome, man. For everybody who's just tuning in, it's the first time ever, 1EMS is the voice of EMS. We are a 501c3 that is all about advocacy and showing the world who we are and making life better for EMS. And honestly, building a career where we just have a job right now. So that's just the highlights of what we do. And Neil falls right into all of that. Now, Neil, you spent 20 plus years in the fire department. Yeah.
Yeah, I did 24 years total, both in the police department, and then I
Okay.
rolled over into the fire department. And I started out as a volley and an EMT, going like way, way back.
And is this New York City Prime or where were
Or
you?
yeah, all New York
Okay.
City.
So how did you make that jump? Because if you watch Rescue Me, police hate fire, and you guys fight. So how did you go from police to the fire department?
I ended up in the police department because in high school I hung out, like we took the subway back and forth, and I spoke a lot with the train. The transit cops had a really big influence on me back then. So I
Okay.
filled out the application, I became a police officer. And at the same time, just about the same time, I went into the volunteer. There's 10 volunteer fire departments within the confines of New York City. I lived blocks from one of those fire departments. So they always had an effect on me also. And I became a volunteer fireman right before I became a police officer. And then I kind of was doing both, and I realized that I liked the fire department a little bit more than the police department. And
Okay.
I ended up putting my application in for FDNY. They picked up the application and they call it rolling over. They let me roll over from the police department to the fire department.
Gotcha. All right. And you went from responding to calls that were somewhat undefined in the police department to
hmm
responding to calls that are a little bit more defined. And what was the biggest difference that you saw in yourself from being a police officer to a firefighter?
It's a great question. People in my personal life would come up to me and say, "What has changed? You seem different." And what they meant by that, what they were really saying was, as a police officer, I kind of walked around on edge because
Gotcha. Gotcha.
everybody is out to get you. Like literally, when I approach somebody's house, I still approach somebody's house the same way. Like I will never stand in front of a door
Yeah.
because of my police department training. And that's because there's danger lurking everywhere. And even off duty, you can run into somebody that you locked up. And that
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
isn't very happy that he was locked up. Doesn't matter if he was completely like at fault, he's not happy. So in the police department, I
Sure.
was
Yeah.
always walking around on edge. In the fire department, everybody kind of loves the fireman, right? Like you're still going to
Yeah. Yeah.
people
Yeah.
at kind of a worse stage in their life, but they just look at you differently. They look at you like you're there to help as opposed to daddy or mommy up and cut them off the job.
So did was there ever an instance where you had been to a residence or locked somebody up in general, and then later in your career you went and saved them in a car wreck or in a fire?
So, no, I actually, luckily, I never had that overlay. The one thing NYPD does that's really smart is you're not allowed to work in the confines of where you live.
Okay,
You're not. You can
gotcha.
work in the precinct next door to where you actually reside, but you can't work in your actual precinct, which is actually a blessing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. It minimizes those random encounters
A little bit. I
that
mean,
you
I'm still
have.
going into we work. You typically like I lived in South Queens and I worked in Brooklyn North, so there was a decent distance between where I worked and where I lived, and that's really small. I
Yeah, I
feel.
get you. So 24 years, typically people who are in 24 years, you're retired and now you're off either playing with the grandkids or doing construction is what my experience has been with firefighters. But what are you doing now after that career?
So I wanted something more for myself, and that more turned out to be real estate for me. And I then went out and I found a mentor, somebody to teach me the world of, and in him teaching me real estate, he also taught me mindset and
Okay.
having me go through like mindset exercises and doing a shift of my mindset because my mindset was completely opposite. And in that shift, I realized mindset's the one domino that knocks everything else over and lines everything else up. So then I became a coach to help people understand mindset, understand that it's not foo-foo, and and understand that they actually
Yeah.
have the power of choice. Like they can actually make things happen in their lives. They're in command of that, not external circumstance.
I love that you mentioned that. I gotta imagine the previous mindset was similar to my previous mindset of same crap, different day. We're the victims. It's always a they. They don't understand. They want to keep us down. They being the government pass rules that makes no sense. And it's just this really negative mindset of of how we work in the field, 20 almost 30 years as a paramedic here. And uh, I think you went through some safe stuff I did. And I noticed on your promotional materials, there's a great shot of you climbing the ladder, going into a building that nobody should be going into. And I've always said that as a paramedic, it's like, you guys go do that. I'll be here when you need me. Because you guys are crazy. Uh, but you have a tagline on that photo. What did you say about that photo?
So that incident was one of the times that cemented why hesitation kills. Because if I would have hesitated in that moment, fire had the potential of going in a completely opposite direction. Like I was playing an integral part. So in the fire department, I had the roof position. The roof position in that fire was a top floor. My job's to get to the roof and cut a hole in the roof so that the fire has a place to vent. And in doing so, it makes it a little bit easier for the guys on the inside to operate.
Sure.
If
That's
I
also
don't
where
cut,
all the danger is heading towards.
yes, and if I don't cut that hole, then bad things can happen. And the company that I was assigned to is a bucket, a cherry picker, right? It's a tower ladder. Most people will know it as a cherry. And I'm standing in the bucket, I'm looking up at the building, and I'm saying, I don't know if I'm going to make that because the fire was literally just on the other side of the windows. And if that glass would have broke, the fire would have came out those windows
Yeah.
and prevented me from getting onto the roof. So in that split second, I had to make the decision: am I going to commit to the bucket and taking the bucket up, or am I going to waste a couple of seconds, jump out of the bucket, run around the corner, and go up that stick? And obviously, I chose to go up the stick, but the stick afforded me the guarantee of making the roof. And if I would have hesitated in that moment and the chauffeur would have
Hmm.
started activating that bucket, then
Yeah.
that I would have been committed to the bucket, and who knows what would have happened.
Now, to my dear listeners who are watching, I like going into the kinbirds. My dear listener, it has been 30. You're going, wait. You went from mindsets to hesitation, and we're tying it all together because the general public, right? We look at you on that ladder and going, what do you mean hesitation? Don't all firefighters just charge into fire? Aren't you all just the hotheads that want to get in there and save the day? What do you mean hesitation?
So primarily to answer your questions, yes. What I found in my personal life is that I could execute at work without a problem. But when I came over into my personal life, I would overthink the simplest things as
Aha.
buying this mouse for my,
Yeah.
like it would take me for what's the best mouse? Like I would overanalyze everything. But on the fire ground and in the police department, I was just boom, boom, boom. So what was the difference between I wasn't hesitating at what I was hesitating at home? And what I found was
Yeah.
at work in EMS, in PD, in like we all do it. We all run scenarios in our heads, and those scenarios prepare us for similar scenarios or that exact scenario. And then we just operate because we're already comfortable.
Hmm.
There's no kind of unfamiliar ground.
You don't even think about it. You go,
Yes.
you absorb. I mean, even if you don't look directly at the scene, you absorb the scene. You understand how safe or unsafe it is. You understand what you need to do because we just do it over and over and over again. Then
You
you're
do that.
going home, and your wife wants you to pick where you're going for dinner, and you're like, "What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?" You know?
Right? Yes. So how's that tie in? It ties in with visualization. And when you say when in the mindset world, when you say visualization, people are like, "Oh, that's foo-foo, that's woo-woo." Yeah,
Yep.
well, you could spend whatever you got 10 years on the job. You could spend 10 years sitting in the cab of that bus, visualizing different scenarios and looking back at calls that you went on and said, you know
Hmm.
what? If I'm ever in that scenario again, I'm not going to do X, I'm going to do Y.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our personal lives, we don't do that.
No, yeah, we leave it at work all the time. And it is crazy. And that's what struck me as I'm reading through. You have a PDF that you provided to me that's glorious. And it's how to beat hesitation.
Yeah.
And you're going through, and you don't even hesitate, which is no pun intended. I mean, you jumped right in. It was like, hey, you got to stop basically crap talking yourself. You got to stop the negative thinking. And something is simple. I mean, you use a lot of the procedure. We're going to walk through all that. I want you to walk through your system and everything else that you talk about. But the gist of it is you took I'm not smart enough. And the first thing you do is you just take the knot out. I'm smart enough. I
Yes.
can do it. And to the point, and we can use some practical examples as you go through, but this is one that struck me recently. I was with an ambulance company owner, and we were having a meeting, and she was talking to somebody trying to arrange a transport. And the patient was a full code, no DNR. And there was not like a high risk of coding. It was just something you needed to know, and she was iffy or whatever, but it wasn't like you got to worry about it. 20, 30-year paramedic here. I'm like, okay, let's roll. But the
Hmm.
statement she made is like, oh, I know so and so is not comfortable knowing that this patient's a full code. And I'm like, how's that a thing? But it is, right? It's that negative self-talk is, oh, I just haven't run enough. Something happened. They saw something, took it a different way. So what you're really, I set up a lot here to say, what I believe is what you're really dealing with is all those unrecognized messages are the ones that we deliberately tell ourselves that keep us from doing things. Is that about
Yes.
right? So walk me through it.
That's you nailed it on the head, Joe. There's a study out there that says we have roughly 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those are negative.
Wow.
95% are repetitive.
Whew.
So essentially, what that says is we're doing exactly what you just said. We're just living on that hamster wheel of negative thoughts, negative thoughts, negative thoughts. And we're just, even when we don't realize it, that self talk is happening. So, what I tell people is just try and slow things down as much as you possibly can. Because if you're slowing things down, then you're living more in the present moment. And if you're living
Okay.
more in the present moment, you have the ability to identify more of the negativity that's going on. And once you can identify it, once you're aware of it, then you can go into actually changing it because you know and you see it's happening. And that's what I talk guys through.
Yeah, I just got to jump right in. I'm already hearing it from the old heads. That, by the way, yeah, I've mentioned how long I've been in the field, but all that I still feel like today is a new day, right? That's what's important. And when I call somebody an old head, you could have been in 5 years, but it's that old locked in mentality. So surely, Neil, surely you've gotten get out of here with that crap kind of talk. It's like, what do you mean? I thought I just could do my job. You call me less than a man, and how do you deal with how do you get people to understand the mentality is the most important thing?
They have to go through it, right? I could explain it to you. I can give you all the tools, but if you're not actually going to do the hard work, and that hard work is just taking a step and having faith
And
in
what?
actually
Faith in what?
faith in that it will work, faith in that I used to be the guy that overthought, and this is what I came up with. This is the procedure I use, and I'll go over the procedure step by step. But this is
Cool.
the procedure I use, and in using this procedure, I've literally turned automatic behavior, automaticity, into a strength as opposed to a.
Okay.
What do I mean by all of that? I created this when I read that stat, 60,000 thoughts, 80% are negative, 95% are repetitive. That smacked me in the face, and I immediately thought, what if I could make that instead of 80 to 70%? Who wouldn't
Mm,
want a 10% increase in their salary? A 10% more time off, right?
yeah.
Who wouldn't want a 10% benefit? So how do I get that 10% benefit? From there, I did what we did in the firehouse. In the firehouse, we go to a job, a fire. We come back, we sit around the table, we all discuss it. Who did what, so that we can all learn from each other. Makes the next job better. I took Post-its, hundreds of them, and I wrote everything down that I've ever thought about. Books I've read, people I've spoken
Okay.
to, techniques I learned. I laid them all out, and then I started saying, this will go with this, that'll go with that. I started categorizing them. What I came up with is my AIR technique, and my AIR technique stands for awareness, interrupt, and replace. Awareness is just slowing things down so that you can become more present in your life. Right now, I want everybody, even if you're driving, most times when you're listening to a podcast, you can't even do it when you're driving, but you could do this even when you're
Sure.
driving, right?
Okay.
I just want you to pay attention to the things that are around you. So, speed limit sign, pavement markers, grass, tree, car. If I was doing it right now, I would be like light, microphone, laptop, right?
Sure. Okay.
Slowing things down. That's a technique out of Japan, Shisha Kenko. That technique was developed in Japan because they were having a lot of accidents on their rail system. Almost immediately after instituting this process that I just described to you,
Hmm.
they saw an 85% reduction. 85% reduction.
So it's forcing you more to be in the conscious mind of
Yes,
what's around you versus getting lost in the thoughts and being on
that's
autopilot.
that's exactly correct.
Okay.
Harvard came out with a study that says 50% of our waking time spent in autopilot. And if you don't believe that, have you ever driven down the highway past three exits and was like,
Yeah.
oh man, where'd those exits come from? Or
Yeah.
have you ever been in a blackout, walked into a room and turned the light switch on, and then got mad at the light switch because the lights weren't coming on? You're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm in a blackout. You know you're in the
Yeah.
blackout, but yet you're still working
Right.
from automaticity.
Right.
So now,
Yeah.
what that does is it lets you calm down and you start paying attention to more things that are going on in your life. When that happens, you start becoming a little bit more aware of your thought. When that thought pops into your mind, you then go into interrupt that thought.
Yeah.
Is the thought serving me? If it's not serving me, then I thank it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you looking out for me. But I choose, and choose is a very important word in this conversation. I
Gotcha.
choose this. What do you choose to think? Well, you mentioned earlier. You take that thought and you just turn it 180 degrees. That's the easiest way to start implementing this. You turn it 180 degrees. I can't becomes I can. I'm not becomes I am. And in that, you're now starting to reprogram your mind to start thinking in the positive. I am, I can. What's going to
Yeah.
happen is, I got to give you Neil's golden rule right now because
All right.
everybody just learned this. You want to implement it. You want to improve yourself. You're going to have a thought right now. It's not going to register. It's not going to register for 6 hours from now. When you're at home in the shower or you're laying in bed right before you go to sleep, you're going to be like, I learned this and I'm such an idiot. Why couldn't I implement? The awareness that you had that 6 hours ago triggers the whole process. So run the process, even though it's 6, 10, 12 hours later, run the process. You became aware. Next, interrupt it. Thank it. Thanks, bro. I really appreciate you watching out for me, but I choose to, and turn that thought 180 degrees. You're going to do that 12 hours out. And if you keep practicing this, remember, you got to do the hard work. It's not a magic pill. You have to do the work. As you do this more and more, 12 hours turns into 6 hours, turns into the present moment, turns into you automatically do.
Right.
And now it's part of that 95% automatic repetitive in the background, but that 95% is only repeating 70%, not 80%.
Right.
So you only have 70% negative thoughts to think of. And that's how you do it. Like that's one of the first steps. There's more to the mindset of it. There's more in depth. We'll call it like mindset 102 as opposed to 101. But
Okay.
that's how you start. That's the basic steps.
And why do you think the negative thought?
Survival.
Okay.
So your subconscious, your mind is built for one thing. It's built for survival. It's not built to make you feel all warm and fuzzy. It's not built for success. It's not built so that you live a great life. It's built for survival. And that goes all the way back to the croc brain, which is the amygdala. It's a little walnut portion
Yeah.
in the right. Our brain or our mind is meant for us to survive. So it sees and identifies those things that it doesn't understand and has the potential of harming us. It doesn't matter whether
Yeah.
that's a saber-toothed tiger or an investment where we may lose money, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The mind is built for survival, not for. So we, every day, we have to combat that. And we combat it using multiple different strategies. One of the biggest strategies that, and guys are doing it right now, literally right this second, because they're listening to us.
Yep.
So they're combating that negative. They're putting themselves in proximity to somebody that can help them. They're putting
Yes.
themselves in proximity to where they want to go.
That's the key. Because where you are is if you're needing this like I did many years ago, is a very negative place. And what we do is you had so many defense mechanisms, coping mechanisms, right? No, I'm happy. I sit here and tell jokes and I laugh. I'll just work a few more hours to make sure the bills get paid, and then not worry about that credit card statement until next month. Not talk about anything hard or dark, or the pain. And for me, it wasn't the ghosts of the field, like, oh, I didn't save somebody. It was what it represented to me about myself that put me in a darker place. And that we cope by trying to ignore all of it. It's still there. Like you said, man, I didn't know that stat. 95% is repetitive, 80% is negative. And the gratitude, we always move towards gratitude. What's one of the number one things we want in this field is a thank you. People are like, I don't do it for the praise. But if you don't get told thank you, then it turns into they don't appreciate me here. They don't pay me enough here. There's not enough money to do this, just this grumpy negative. But we really as humans want that gratitude. For me, when I heard you say, we had that negative thought, we say thank you. It's like you are working with yourself on that. It's like
Yes.
if all you do is say, stop that, that's horrible thinking, you're telling, I didn't really think about the survival aspect of the brain, but I get it. You're telling it, stop doing your job. But that's exactly what we're being told when we do our jobs. And it gratitude means everything, even in the
Yes.
bad situation. It just takes a bad situation and makes it better, makes it actionable. That's
It,
the word. It gives us so. If you're grateful, then your head's up and you can see the things you can do. Whereas if you're negative, your head's down and you're just feeling the pressure.
Another great, like a great activity, something I do every morning and every night is I fill out a gratitude journal.
Okay.
And that gratitude journal is just, I will do it at night. I start at night, and at night I will just list out the 3 wins I have for the day and a lesson I learned for the day. And
Gotcha.
then I say, I'm going to do these 3 things the next day. And those 3 things are always things that move the needle for whatever you're pursuing. And then I wake up the next morning. I have those 3 things already listed out. I already know exactly what I'm doing today. And then I go into my gratitude. What are 3 things that I'm grateful for? And I go into I call it a commitment statement. What am I committed to doing? So basically, what's my purpose? And
Yeah.
what do I like my long-term vision? This is who I am.
Yeah. It's so difficult though, to work through that on your own, because I believe life is like crabs in a bucket, right? You put two crabs in a bucket, they're both one's going to try to escape, the other's going to pull it down.
Yes.
And it's been a hard road initially when I really started working on myself doing these things. Like, no, obviously I am good enough or I wouldn't have this job. I can do the job. It's the 90s. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. And you've got to you said hard work earlier and you said have faith, and what I was thinking was faith in yourself that you can do this, and faith that no matter what we have faith in our skills as firefighters and paramedics and police officers. We have faith that we're going to come out of this alive. Number one, we have faith that we're going to make a difference in somebody else's life. Number two, and we don't always, right? You don't always save
Yes.
the person from the fire. You don't always get the person back from the CPR. You don't always do anything. But we have faith that this is not going to be the forever moment, that the next person we're going to do better on, or we just do what we can with what we have. But we don't apply that inside of ourselves. So the 3 F's, tell me about the 3 F's, about how you apply some of these things.
So the 3 F's is when you go back to air, you recognize you have a thought. You ask yourself, is this thought serving me? What happens if you can't decide whether that thought's serving you? You've run it through the triple F process,
Okay.
right? So what are you focusing on? What are your feelings? And how do those feelings make you, how do they make you feel? And what are
Sure.
the actual facts, right?
That's important.
So I'm going to do this. We're on YouTube. We could do this together right here.
Okay.
And I can show you how easy it is, and I can describe it for guys that are listening. Just take a sheet of paper, a magic marker, and draw a T right on the paper. Across the top, you're going to write your thought, whatever the thought is. This is what you're focusing on. Down the left-hand side of that T, you're going to write all the facts. And the facts are what you're telling yourself that makes this true, right? Like,
Okay.
why do I believe this thought? Why did this thought come up? What are the facts that back that thought up? And then
Yeah.
down the
Tell
right
me
hand
this.
side, you're going to write your feelings. And when you write your feelings, when you think about the facts and the thought, how does that make you feel? And then you write this feelings. If those feelings are angry and frustrated and tired, and dysfunctional, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this is how, then that thought's obviously it's not serving you. So you have to switch the thought. Now We switched it to it. We turn it 180 degrees. We get another sheet of paper out. We do the same exact T. This time the focus is the new thought. What are the facts that are backing that new thought up? And when I think about these facts and that thought, how does it make me feel? So I used to do a lot of, I come from the real estate world, right? Like I went from the fire department to the real estate world. One of the biggest limiting beliefs in the real estate world is I need money. I don't have any money. I need money to buy real estate. So you may be like, I can't invest in real estate. I don't have any money. What are the facts?
Yeah.
Well, my bank account only has $100. Well, you have money, by the way, right? But my bank account only has $100 in it. I don't know how to buy real estate. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now let's switch things. I can buy real estate because I do have money. The fact is, you do have money, even though it's only $100. But where else can you get money from, right? In real estate, and this is why proximity is power. You touched upon proximity was power earlier when we were speaking. In real estate, you can borrow money. In real estate, you can form partnerships. You and I can get together. If I don't have the money, you and I can get together. You have the money. So it's not about not having the money. It's about access to it and
Mm-hmm.
identifying where you can gain access to the money. You can gain access to the money through, you can gain access through doing a capital raise. You can gain access through taking loans from the bank, right? Everybody purchased a house. They only purchased a house with a quote unquote small amount of money in relationship to
Right.
the value of the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're using other people's money to buy your house. You could do the same thing on the investor side of things. So it's about pooling money, it's about access to money. So once you realize that you have access to money, how does that make you feel? It makes you feel like there's hope for the future. It makes you feel like you can do it. I'm excited to try these things out. You buy real estate just by seller financing, right? Like you'd feel
Right.
like, who would sell a finance? Seller financing is when the seller of the house actually holds the note. So you
They're the
write a
bank, basically.
promissory, yeah, you
Yeah.
write a
Yeah.
promissory note to the seller, and you pay the seller just like you would pay the bank, except this time you're paying the seller. That's seller financing. So when you realize lots of different ways to pen a deal, all of a sudden, you know what? I might go the real estate way. I can go to real estate. So it's all in that mindset. And a lot of it comes from proximity to individuals that are doing what you want to do, proximity to
Mm-hmm.
individuals that get it. And I'm telling you straight out, there's guys in the station house, whether that's the EMS station
Right. Right.
or the police station, there's guys in the firehouse that want to do this stuff. And they're all sitting in the corner. Oh, I can't say anything because I'm not going to look cool,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Somebody's going to shoot me down. Well, is that person going to cry at your funeral? Like, are they going to cry at you? No, they're not going to. You're not even going to know these guys 20, 30, 40 years from now. Some of them, right? Some of
The
them you will,
negative
some of them you won't.
ones. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about surrounding yourself with individuals that kind of pat you on the back and say, oh, you want to buy real estate? That's a great idea. I was thinking about doing that, as opposed to, what do you want to get involved with tenants and toilets for? Right? Like, two
Yeah.
different responses to the
Right.
same statement. Again, who are you going to surround yourself with?
That, and you keep saying that, and that's important. I can't remember which motivational speaker pointed it out, but you want to know what kind of life you're living? Look at the five people you surround yourself with most of the time. And do you like them? Do you think they're healthy? They're happy? And that's the key is, and I've heard other people use it like, well, millionaires surround themselves with multimillionaires, and multimillionaires surround themselves with billionaires, whatever. And it's hard for any of us to go, hey, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Don't talk to me about millionaires. But I am going to talk to you about how you sleep at night. And I worked hard and had to pull out of the field for a while just to work on myself to get stable, because I was definitely unstable inside. And that's you got to be able to admit that to yourself and get help. But because the negative would just move me so much. I hated running calls. I hated certain types of calls. I hated certain people just because somebody else didn't like them. And it's so hard to be yourself, whatever that means, because you will have somebody try to tear it down. You will have somebody not. I mean, the worst case scenario is they don't support. I mean, not worst, lightest, best worst case scenario. They just don't acknowledge you. They don't support what you're thinking. And it's hard to find that line, Neil, right? As you're coming up at any stage of life and you're figuring out your path through fire, through EMS, through a marriage, through whatever you're doing, and going, okay, I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know. And people are coming in and you don't know what they don't know. and they're piling on and they're guiding you. So how do you, because I think we take a lot of these negative messages, we hear something from somebody else, and without realizing it, we just internalize it and we grab it
Yes.
without knowing why they said it or what they came from. So how do we first, or not first, but as we are working on ourselves with air and being aware and interrupting and responding, how are we going to help filter out the outside influences?
Can I give you a real life example?
I would love a real life example,
You just said millionaires. Don't talk to me about that. I'm living paycheck to paycheck.
right?
How about we reframe that and say, millionaires, how can I do it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Who do I need to talk to make this happen? Because it's all within us. We absolutely have the ability. It's just, do we choose to place our focus, our attention on it, or do we choose to say, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I could never do that. In,
Everything is a choice.
in Pursuit of Happiness is a movie with Will Smith, and it's about an individual, a salesman, and he ends up basically going bankrupt. And he has this one machine that he's trying to sell, and he's literally homeless,
Hmm.
pulling his kid around, living in shelters. The individual that Will Smith portrays now runs his own investment firm. And it's all because he asked the one question, hey, you drive a fancy car. What do you do for a living? How do you do that? I'm a stockbroker. Can I do that? Yeah, here you go. And the guy showed him how to do it. Successful people, millionaires, like people like, oh, millionaires, they don't have the time of day for me. They don't have the time of day for somebody that wastes their time. They will give you everything you need if you are serious and committed. I can't tell you how many times I suggested somebody read a book, because that's kind of how, that's a litmus
Sure.
test that I will run people through, right? It's easy. Just go read this book. Tell me what you thought about it. Tell me what you learned. They never come back to me.
Because they wanted an answer built for them
They want
versus
to,
here's how
they
you
want a secret
find
pill.
the change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
do the work.
You know, man, there's so much there, but it is very much choice. That's what you talked about, choice. And once I owned, so my story
Yes.
used to be, oh, this is how I was raised. This is the damage my parents did. These are the things I did. This is what they did. It was always an outside external force. They. And I finally realized through some therapy, through my wife and I having fights, and my best friend talking to me and going, ultimately, I'm going to sum it down to I chose to hold on to all that hurt and that anger.
Mm-hmm.
Once I started choosing, once I asked, the first question was, why? Why do I want to feel this way? The question is, do I have the opportunity to change? It can be anything. I mean, you get so many people who lose limbs can be inspiring stories. I used to run a dialysis transport company, so you see people with legs cut off all the time, happy as can be. And I said, man, these people have every right to be angry with life. They've lost their freedom, right? They don't get to do whatever they want in the week, 3 days a week. They're going to sit in a chair and getting their blood changed out just to stay alive. They have to, or they won't live. They're also losing bodily functions as far as like toes and feet and arms and whatever. Their life is very much dictated to, and yet most of them happy as could be, nicest people you talk to, just accepted this as life, and they chose. So why am I choosing to be angry? Why am I choosing to hold on to this? And once I figured that, I owned that I could choose it, and I heard you jump in and like, yeah, that's it. Where did you learn you had the choice? Because all this plays into hesitancy, right? Why we're overthinking, why we're not making those decisions, why is it easier just to jump to another job instead of become better at this one or a better human being? When did you learn to own your choices?
From my mentor. My mentor gave me this book, Energy Leadership by Bruce Schneider. This talks about the 7 levels of perception.
Okay.
And we get to choose what level we resonate at. So the first level is victim. Why does everything happen to me? If I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck.
Oh, I hate that
No,
phrase so much.
nobody likes me, right? The world is out to get me. I'm always playing the victim card. The second level is conflict, right? We live in the first 4 levels, but the second level is conflict. Like I'm always lashing out because I know I don't want to be that victim, but I don't know what else to do. You have concern where you actually start resonating from, I'm concerned about you as an individual and I want to help you. Responsibility, which was a big one. when you were just talking, right? Like taking
Hmm.
responsibility for the role that I'm playing. I was going down the highway the other day. Well, not the other day, this is a couple of years ago, but I was going down the highway the other day, and somebody literally, I was in the right hand lane just before the exit, and this car comes from the left, cuts
Mm.
me off, and flies down the exit ramp
Hmm.
so close, like my heart skipped a beat, and all I could see, like visually, all I could see is me like spinning and turning over and over and over going down the highway.
Sure.
Some years ago, I would have waved at him like a proper New York City guy with a certain finger flashing at them, right? I would
We
have
are
waved at him
one
like,
EMS. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, one EMS, yes. I would have waved at him in a certain manner and yelled and screamed
Uh,
and like really lost my shit.
yeah.
And then I would have, when I got to where I was going, which was just the next exit, I would have gotten out of the car. I would have been yelling and screaming. I would have been telling my buddy, "You can't believe this. I almost died." I'd get home. I'd be repeating the same story again. The
Yes.
next day, I'd be
Reliving it.
repeating the same story again.
Yes.
Right. So now I can just be like, I'm going to give this guy a blessing. I hope his family's okay. Nobody would drive like that. They weren't racing to save their little girl. Something seriously must have happened. He must really be in a headspace that isn't good right now. And we've all been in those headspaces. We can all resonate. By the time you get to, like, I got to the next exit, I didn't even say anything to my buddy. I was completely calm. My blood pressure never went through the roof.
There you go.
And it's, again, it's how you're perceiving. There would
Yeah.
have been nothing wrong with me being upset and like gripping the right, like, but is that benefiting me? It's not benefiting. We have, so life happens for us, not to us,
Yes.
right? We can't control the
Yes.
experiences that hit us, but we can control the response to those experiences.
100%.
And in controlling those responses, in of taking the higher ground, it really does bring you peace and it calms you. And now you can continue to focus on whatever it is that is your true focus, right? If I would have flipped out on this guy, the rest of my day would have been shot. So I can choose to give him that power, to relinquish that power to him, or I could choose to, you know what? I'll give you a blessing and I'll get on with my day.
And that
No harm,
person
no
never
foul.
gave you a second thought, right? They're off doing their own thing.
They didn't even listen. It was so close that he didn't even see me there because if he would have saw me there, there's no way he would have did what he
Right.
did. Right? So he doesn't even realize it happened. And that's another thing. Like he's off living his day. And I'm like, no.
Yep.
You're wrecking your
Yeah.
day over. Like, what are you wrecking your day over? And even if that would have turned into like a car accident, right? The other example I use is you're in a parking lot and somebody backs into you, right?
Hmm.
Again, you can act as the victim. Why is everybody hit me? You could act in conflict, get out and yell and scream at them. You can act in concern, right? Like get out and say to them, like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right? I know you didn't see me." You could take responsibility for I chose to park in that parking spot. So even though I didn't cause the accident, I do play a part in the accident, right? Like how do you choose to respond to things that are happening
Yeah.
and then move forward?
Yeah.
Because in that accident, right? One of two things are going to happen. If it's just a little fender bender, maybe you tell him don't worry about it, like you go your own way. Maybe he gives you a couple of dollars, or you go to the insurance company and you go through insurance. But regardless of how you respond to that, ultimately you're going to end up in the same place. So why let your blood pressure rise?
Right. Right. Why let it affect your entire day? Well, something's going on in my life right now, and my wife she hits this negative point every time, and I'm like, man, you're stuck on that. I thought it's like the whole thing is not positive, but we can take these positive steps, and that's everybody has their ways, right?
Yes.
And we could go on forever. I gotta wrap this up, but uh, I am the master of my day, so I choose how I'm going to move through it. And you were talking about that guy. I was thinking about one that was also recent for me, where two different people I felt like and I'm getting angry and angry, and I'm driving a little more recklessly now because I'm angry, and I had to stop and go, why am I choosing to allow that moment affect the entirety of the rest of my day? And I took some deep breaths and I focused, and I interrupted a thought and all that. And that's it. That's what I want everybody to leave with. Besides, where to find more about Neil and his programs, and the 112 million minds that you're trying to change is your goal there. But know that. When we say you chose to park in that parking space, well, you're blaming me? No, you're blaming you now if you took it that way. What you have to do is you have to understand that I am the master of what I do, and how I respond to all of it is what matters. And because I chose to do this, I can also choose to change it. And that's the power,
Yes.
right? It takes away the victimhood because we can choose to change things. So, Neil, where can they find you and more about you and get you to come speak to their groups?
NeilSchoepp.com, the website. Instagram, Neil Schoepp. Facebook, Neil Schoepp. That's kind of where I hang out. I hang out mostly on Instagram.
Now
Neil at
spell it, yeah, for everybody.
Neil Schoepp. So Neil is Neil, and Schoepp is Schoep. Peter.
Yeah.
A lot of people I say P and they hear T.
T. Yeah, yeah. No, right. It's all the things.
So reach out to me. Shoot me an email. Follow me on Instagram. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. Like, I'm here to help individuals, and I'm truly looking to build those 112 million freedom thinkers. Because if we can change how we think, then we can literally change the world and make it a really good place.
And that, in a nutshell, is what One EMS is all about. Is we change our thinking, we change our ways. One of the biggest things I've always stood on is people love in EMS we love to call ourselves redheaded stepchildren.
Yeah.
You know, and like stop. We got to call ourselves the best of the best, and then be that. So, thank you for being on today, Neil, and sharing a lot of the same messages that I try to share, and in different ways. And I love that you're here. OneEMS.com is where you can find more information about how you can support the cause. And also, it is info at OneEMS or Charles at OneEMS.com if you would also like to be on the show or find out more about the guests that I've had. Again, Neil, thanks for being on, man. And I hope you have a best rest of your life.
Good to see you, Charles.